What's up, guys? Episode 46. I got Podcast, and I got an amazing guest today because I haven't seen him in over 10 years. But we go way back to when well over 10 years, I would say. But we went back to, we were coworkers, and then we just went our separate ways, but we always kept in touch, and I always followed his story and everything. Anyway, I'm going to give you a proper intro. Kirk Jackson, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm well, Kirk, man. It's been a while. It's been a long time, but I owe you a proper intro because this is actually why I wanted you on. Aside from catching up, boxing has gone back into the limelight as of late, and I wanted your input on that as well as just to see where have you been. So Kirk has been a national champion in boxing, and he still maintains his activity within the sport. And he's also a coach at UC Davis, man. That's my alma mater.
I know.
Yeah, man. And he coaches the UC Davis boxing team, which is good to see and hear. You're also a reporter. He covers and attends events, interviews fighters, and has friends serving as trainers and active trainers and professional currently. Yeah, man.
What's up?
Dude, what got you into boxing? I remember you was training way back when we were even working together, and then you were just telling me how you train and you try to eat clean, and you've been consistent as all hell, man. And that in today's society, being consistent is actually one of the strongest attributes to have. And being able to ignore all the noise, ignore the temptations. So I guess what I want to start with is what got you interested in boxing? What age did you start to really look at boxing as a sport you wanted to pursue?
What first got me into boxing is probably Mike Tyson. Growing up as a kid, my family would always host things like on fight night, Saturday. Yeah. And I think it's a standard with American families where whenever there's a big event, a big fight, now the UFC is kind of taking precedence, but there'd be a big event. So there'd be people would order pizza or we'd make whatever food and family would come over. And I was always intrigued by the event itself and seeing the fighters, and Mike Tyson in particular. I loved his style, very aggressive. With certain athletes, you can kind of see like certain emotional traits that you like. You can sense his aggression, and I was intrigued by that. So I'd say when I was very young, Mike Tyson.
That's crazy, man. Listen, I get the American practice of getting family over for a boxing pay-per-view, especially when you and I were kids. I think boxing was what was really in the forefront because of Mike Tyson specifically. But there were a few fighters out there that were, Hall of Fame worthy, obviously, and also just they were running the world. And it was Mike was one, obviously. Evander Holyfield. Yeah,
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oscar De La Hoya, that's right. And they're making a movie, by the way, with about Mike Tyson. And have you heard about this? It's like a biopic with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. He had been pitching that idea for several years.
He had, yeah. And I'm so happy that he's actually, I don't know if it's already wrapped shooting or it's, because I remember he was posting on his Instagram about like how he had transformed his look, and he looked just like him, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how, and we already know like his impression of him is 100% on point. But yeah, boxing was, what do you think happened? I mean, obviously MMA came into the play, and it for the average viewer, more ways to hit the opponent is more exciting to watch, right? But that it's a whole different art, and I feel like, in my opinion, I think boxing, the reason, and your expertise can weigh in on this, obviously, but I just wanted to say that I thought boxing got a lot of heat over in the 90s, especially in late 80s and 90s, when it became almost like there was a lot of conspiracy about the outcomes, and that it started to feel like pro wrestling, right? It started to kind of get that image, right? And nothing wrong with pro wrestling. It's just, everybody knows the outcomes are predetermined in pro wrestling. It is a hard ass sport to be in, though. You can
Sure.
definitely get hurt in pro wrestling. There's nothing fake about it, but it was just, yeah, it got clumped into that. Where do you agree that was a big factor, or no?
Yeah, I mean, controversy sells, but at the end of the day, when there's too much controversy resulting in, which helps bring upon bad results, then I think the fan base or the audience is going to become discontent with what they're seeing. With boxing, I think also what hurt the sport is there's so many politics that go on that not too many people are well informed about. Politics meaning there are several different promoters, and a lot of the promoter or every promoter, they're going to work in their best interest. So that means we won't see every single fight that we want to see. And with that greed of each respective promoter, along with the greed of different networks that broadcast each fight, along with different sanctioning bodies, it's made boxing very complicated to the casual fan and prevented some of the biggest matchups from happening. That's a problem we have with the sport, where you kind of have independent contractors, as opposed to the NBA or the NFL, where you have a schedule where every team at some point is going to meet up with the respective conference, with the best of the best from each conference meeting at the very end. And with boxing, we don't have that.
Yeah. Do you think it should be implemented, like some sort of schedule?
I think so, but that'll be so difficult to put together. In order for that to happen, everything would have to fall under one umbrella. So with the UFC, for example, I mean, so there's mixed martial arts, but the UFC has done such a great job with branding. People always associate mixed martial arts with UFC.
Right.
And they don't always acknowledge the different organizations like Bellator, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And with the UFC, Dana White, even though he may not be in control of matching everyone up per se, he is the figurehead of the company. And more times than not, they're going to put together matchups that intrigue the audience. And even if they don't, they have such a strong hold on their media representation that the media is going to put out certain narratives that pretty much portray that, no, we're making the best match available, even if we're not. So
I see.
So they have a really strong business model that's successful for them.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I could see that causing challenges for now. Boxing has kind of, with Mayweather, he helped kind of keep it in the limelight to a degree, and especially with his undefeated streak. And but the heavyweights was where, like, it took a big dip, right? For some reason, for me, I always think, when I think boxing, I'm like, the top names that come to my mind, other than Mayweather, is usually the heavyweights, right? It's like the lighter weight fighters. I don't know why they wouldn't get as much love, but there's a lot of great fighters that are in the lighter division. What weight did you fight at?
I fought at 139. So technically, if we're going real old school, that'd be considered welterweight.
Okay.
In the newer era, it's junior welterweight. So I fought at that weight and at 147, which is welterweight.
Yeah.
And for the, I guess, not casuals, but people not as informed, the average person for example, would probably fight in that division. So historically, at welterweight, junior welterweight, those showcase some of the greatest athletes that we've had because there's more
in that weight.
population. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I wrestled in high school, and I was horrible. I may have told you this. I may have told you this when I was when we were working together. But we had a dude on our team. This kid was like 16, but he was a Mack truck, man. He was like, I want to say 270. Yeah, 270, and that's not it. He wasn't like a short, big guy. He was 6'5". Like he was like, I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, did you fail high school like 13 times? Or something? Like it just felt like he was well ahead of his league. He actually went by the name Taz, which is funny. Like that's what they called him. It makes sense. But he was on the wrestling team, and he never like he would never lose just purely based on the fact that any opponent was like up to his waist, like
Right.
even if they were his weight, like they couldn't like get him down. They couldn't, get their arms around his neck. It was just when you were talking about most people being in the welterweight or the junior welterweight. Now you said that's a modern thing, right? The junior welterweight, is that because everyone's getting bigger? Is that?
I think for competition and for safety reasons I can't say which specific year, but probably in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, we saw an expansion of the weight classes. So I think originally there were 7 weight classes, ranging from anywhere to like 10 to 15 pounds in difference. So in order to better protect the fighters and potentially make more fights, they would, instead of there being a 15-pound disparity, they cut it to 7.5. So there's more weight classes. So,
yeah. So 7.5 pounds would be the difference between one to the next.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. And you were a national champ.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that, man.
It was an extremely tough journey because when I was competing, I was going to school. I was attending the University of Nevada, Reno, and I was on the boxing team. So basically, I competed in the NCAA version of boxing collegiately. And it was a very tough road. Like I commend all the athletes because not only are we boxing, but we're going to school. Many of us are working jobs. I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, I was working 2 to 3 jobs, going to school full time, going to practice. Some days I'd wake up like at 6 a.m. I'd either run, prepare for work, or go to school. And then depending on what I did, I'd either go to school, go to work, go to practice, or whatever the case may be. And my night wouldn't end until 11 o'clock because I'd always do a final workout.
No matter what.
What's that?
No matter what, you got it in.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That takes discipline, man. How did you build that discipline? Did you always have it, or you had to work on it? How did you do that?
It didn't come naturally for me. I was fortunate that for the team that I was on, we had a few other national champions in different weight classes, and one person in particular, Jared Santos, he pretty much set the example. He was like the Tim Duncan of the team, like very quiet to himself, but he wasn't someone who was above criticism. And he would just lead by example. I'd see him running after practice, running before practice, and I'm like, well, he's regarded as the best person on our team. He's one of the best fighters, and I admire what he does. If I want to achieve the same level as him, I should emulate what he does. And it just so happens a lot of the athletes that I looked up to growing up pretty much had the similar mindset and the work ethic. So
that's great. But there's a reason you followed them, right? There's a reason you gravitated to those athletes.
For sure.
I think you possessed it yourself. Even when we were young, man, I would see that. I'm like, I was definitely not disciplined at that age, but in our like, what was it, like late teenage years, early 20s, I would be like, what are you doing after work? You're like, I'm gonna go, work. I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go exercise. I gotta get ready. What years did you compete in though? What specifically? So University of Nevada. I'm trying to remember if that was before or after or during when we were.
That was after we initially met. So I'd say
Yeah.
from 2013 up and through 2016.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. So how did it happen? What was the national championship fight? Take us through
Um,
that.
okay, even just with the whole boxing journey, I actually didn't intend on competing. I was working for the school paper, Sagebrush at UNR,
Yeah.
and I was asked to cover an event. And so I went by, covered the event, and I stopped by the gym, and I just said, "Let me just give it a shot. Might as well."
Yeah.
And the coaches took a liking to me, and I'd say maybe a week or two after I had sparred, they actually set a match for me, and I fortunately won, and then we just went on from there. As far as the nationals go, just like with any other collegiate sport, like with the NCAA or I'm sorry, with like basketball or football,
Yeah.
there's a conference championship or like a regional.
Yeah.
So I had to compete in the Western Regional, which was going against different schools like Washington or the Air Force, for example. After I was successful in the regional, you advance to the national, which features everyone from across the country,
Yeah.
and it's a 3-day tournament. So you win and you advance. And won the first fight by TKO.
Nice.
And the guy that I actually defeated, he's actually professional now, and I believe he's 9-0.
Wow.
He signed with a big time heavyweight fighter. I can't say it. I can't say who it is, but
Yeah.
I'm very happy for him.
That's great.
The second fight I had, I won't say it was fairly easy, but I did really well.
Yeah.
And then the third fight was against Army, and that was one of the tougher fights I had, just because I was so nervous because I had preparing so much, and I had all this pressure. I put all this pressure on myself.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd be a failure if I didn't win, even though that's not the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And just going against someone who's very shifty, very determined. He went to Army. He attended Army. They train to kill. That's their mindset.
Right.
They're a military school, so it was very tough. But I'll say that once my name was announced, it was very gratifying. I broke down in tears. My mom was there in attendance. It was pretty cool.
That's great, man. That's awesome, man. And did you was that a decision, that last fight? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a split decision actually.
Oh wow.
So they had to build up the drama to.
Man, that's incredible, man. Good for you. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Thank you.
You're a hell of a hard worker, and you don't complain, which is admirable, because a lot of people bitch and moan all the time when things don't go their way, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to grow. I'm learning that. I've been learning that in the last 4 or 5 years, and myself, because I'm there's nothing for me to hide. I would say I was one of those people right in the beginning. It started to hit me later when I realized, damn, I started to also look up to athletes that I admired, like Kobe or Michael, or because basketball is my sport, but not professionally or even collegiately, but I just love the game. And so a lot of the athletes that I looked up to are in the NBA or basketball. But anyway, it was clear to me. It just became clear to me what I needed to do. I needed to just apply myself and enjoy the journey, right? As opposed to just look for the results, because the results almost aren't as important. It's the learning you get along the way.
I wish I would have enjoyed the journey.
Really?
Like I honestly, and I didn't have that instantly, as far as like knowing that I have to really put forth the amount of effort that I had to.
Yeah.
There was a fight that I felt like I won that I did not win, but I realized my shortcoming came from the lack of preparation. Like I didn't. It was a feeling like I know I could have won if I'd have done this, if I'd have worked a little bit harder on this day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had came to the conclusion that, you know, at the end of the day, even if I win or lose, I'm going to feel like shit if I haven't applied the maximum effort possible. And in hindsight, I'm fortunate for taking that L on that particular night and coming to that realization, because, as you said, you can't make excuse. I mean, you can make an excuse, but you can also overcome it.
Right.
And I try and live by the saying of greatness doesn't operate on equal terms.
Right.
So if you want to be great, you have to go above and beyond. And, you know, you can't really worry about complaining about certain situations. You got to rise above it.
Hey, that's 100%, man. It's character. It builds your character, man. I think those shortcomings or the L's, to me, they're just learning opportunities. They're, you know, you learn. I don't even look at them as losses necessarily, right? I just look at them as like you learned from that bout or from that game or whatever, and then you apply it moving forward. And that's all you can do is move forward and take your experiences to just build a better version of yourself in any field, not even just sports. It can apply in your career outside of sports, or, you know, even in tech or whatever field that you're passionate about. So man, that's cool. So what happened after the nationals, and what ultimately did you, like, got you to not want to pursue a professional career? Or maybe you did, I don't know.
Realizing how hard I had to work, just on the amateur level and at the level I was at.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even I wouldn't consider myself at the highest level of amateur, because I believe that's the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I know that there's certain things I want to do in life, as far as like with news media and things like that. But then I also have the understanding that the punishment that you take on a day-to-day basis with boxing or any other combat sport isn't going to be conducive to me being successful in that. And I knew I couldn't. I felt like I really couldn't continue to travel that path and pursue my other goals as well.
Yeah.
So,
hell, man, I mean, I feel like you had goals. That's already like a win, man. People don't even usually get that far. Like, they're just like, I just want to make money. So, you know, but the goals are great. And I remember you were into journalism, and specifically for boxing. Now, is that expanded to other sports, or are you still doing that, or how's that coming along?
I mean, my focus is on boxing, but I've published stories for different sports like the NBA, swimming, rugby. When you're a beat writer for like any publication, a lot of times you don't really have a choice on what to cover. You just have to do what they tell you.
Sure.
So I mean, it's a good experience because it opens up your eyes to different experiences, for sure. Yeah. And the relationships you develop with your other interactions, you can incorporate that into yourself, really, and building upon your portfolio and into your brand. So I definitely don't want to focus on one single thing. I want to branch out and do various things, not even just with sports, but with politics and with music. And I don't want to limit myself to one thing.
Right. So where do you go from here? What's on the horizon for you as far as journalism and writing, being a beat writer, and like, where do you see yourself going, or you may already have goals that are coming into play? What's that about? What do you got?
I think the ultimate goal for anyone, for any profession, is ownership. You wanna own your own likeness, your own platform as what you're doing, right? You wanna be the boss. That way you have creative control.
Yeah.
You're not inhibited by other factors. You have that freedom to do what you want to do, even if you don't reach the success that you may feel like you should reach. You can live on the laurels of you're putting in the work. You're the master of your own destiny and of your own path.
Yeah.
So I'm currently putting together. I have a few blogs and sites, but I want to put together another site that encompasses everything as far as the different like genres of what to cover as far as like sports, politics, etc. So that's in the making right now.
That's killer, man. That's awesome. Um, One thing that's helped me a lot is a calendar, dude.
Yeah, for sure, for
I
sure,
mean, it may have looked empty right now, but it's not. I have stuff
for
written
sure.
down. It's just, and that's something I actually told myself before the end of 21. I was like, because I had everything on my phone, right? But it was like, it didn't like, and I wasn't like missing things on my day to day. Like I was getting stuff done, but um, there was some sort of like, there's some sort of satisfaction with actually physically checking off, right? Like I literally make a list, and when I do it every day, it it did something for me that really like compartmentalized everything in my brain, and it was just like, all right, I know I got to get this like dates started to matter more, like you know what I mean, like it wasn't just like open ended, like I started to be accountable for myself, and now that I'm in the entertainment industry full force with comedy and my skits online and everything, like you know it's a huge leap for me, but like you said, it's all my thing, right? It's my own thing. I'm not um yeah, it's a whole game that I'm learning, like with stand up, like I'm learning that right now, and there's a whole other world, stand up comedy, like I'm learning, like being a sketch artist, like that I'm used to, which is what I kind of grew up doing, work, you know, in the theater world, or just small acting gigs, like here and there, directing musicals, like those all kind of like groomed me to do sketch comedy and post my own content. And now with TikTok and Instagram and everything, it's like all the tools you need to promote yourself, right? We're in the dawn of that, and eventually, apparently, everybody's going to have a doppelganger in the metaverse. So, I guess I got to start working on my uh, lookalike guy.
And I
But
got to
anyway,
commend you. I got to commend you for that too, because that takes a lot of confidence for you to have that belief and for you to put out sketches, and you're leaving yourself like vulnerable for whether it be criticism or any kind of analysis or public assessment. And that takes a lot of courage to do that. So I
appreciate
definitely
it, man.
commend you on that.
Thank you, man. No, it was initially, yeah, that was like one of the things I had to get comfortable with, because when I was younger, I mean, I'm 36 now, but when I was like in my early 20s, and I've shared this story on this podcast previously. So, but to sum it up, it was like I I was in a band, I was touring, like my music, as you know, like that's what I was doing, and I still love music and I still pursue it, and I teach music, and you know that's the other business that I built starting in 2010, 2011. Um, you know, but I always loved making people laugh. Right? I didn't want. And speaking of Jamie Foxx, he was one of my influences, right, growing up, because he did everything I loved doing, and he was great at all of them, right? And it's like, and any interview I hear about him, he's like, I just did what I love to do, like you know, growing up in Texas for him, and he was like, apparently his grandmother was really like she really pushed him, right? Like so like that, I guess I would say is like the one difference, right? Not to make excuses, but like it was like he was pushed to pursue his dreams, right? And he was a hilarious guy from back in the day, like in Living Color, when he got his start. But even before that, right, when he was Eric Bishop, that was his real name. And then he and how he got into the stand-up scene and learning that. But like you said, though, it just takes believing in yourself and doing it because you love it. And I think that's what really got me to jump on the web and start sharing my content, because I found out, like, if I thought of something that was funny to me, I was like, all right, there's at least 10 people that are gonna agree that that's funny, and that's good enough for me, right? I was like, I'm gonna share it. Like, I want, especially with the climate in the world right now, like everything is about negativity and everything's about like bullshit, and like it's not even, half of it is not even validated. It's not even real.
Right.
So it's like, nah, man, I'm gonna share stuff that's just wholesome, that I found. Like, if I can laugh at it, I know others will. And if they don't laugh at it, cool. I tried. It's all right, right? The idea is to keep doing it, and I love it. And the more I do it, the more I realize, like, it actually mentally affects the rest of my day in a good way. It like uplifts me. Like, I feel like alive. I feel like, oh man, I did something. I created something, you know? So, and the opposite is true too. When I don't create, I start to feel it, right? After a while, like, it's like, it feels like there's like a mountain on me after a while. I'm just like, why am I like just going through the, just emotions? I'm not really like feeling like I'm living. But
And if you don't do it, like whatever the case may be for anyone, that's your absolute answer. Like, you're not doing it. Like,
yeah,
what's the worst? That's the worst that can happen. You're not doing it. If you do it, you might surprise yourself.
yeah, you miss 100% of every shot you don't take. That's what,
Right.
that's, I can't remember who quoted that, but I've heard it a bunch of times and I've seen it. But anyway, it's true though. And I approach basketball with the same love, man. I play it, but I never really wanted basketball to be the main thing that I pursued. Also with basketball, there's physical limitations after a while, right? So it's like, it
We
wasn't.
played 1-on-1 too back in the day.
Yeah, I remember. We're not going to talk about the game, but but yeah, it's like I feel like with sports, pursuing sports, and you said it too, you wanted to pursue journalism and reporting, and boxing specifically, it's such a injury prone sport with long-term damages that can affect your elder years. So, and we've seen it. I mean, the GOAT, Muhammad Ali, like, towards the end of his life, he had Parkinson's, was it?
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't seen the reports on it, but it's an educated guess that it was a direct result of his boxing career. So,
for sure.
so it's but I think that's the price those that do, like, that's all they want to do, that's the price they're willing to pay. Look at NFL, right? It happens
Right.
all the time. So
Well,
anyway,
I'm sorry. I was just say, you get what you sign up for. Like, we know the risks. So
yeah, exactly. The risks are there, but I think when you love something and you feel wholesome about it, and the word I always use, and I plaster it all over my Twitter and all over my Instagram posts and my story, but purity, man. It's when at your purest form, that's what you gravitate towards. That was your calling. That's what you're supposed to be doing, right? Now, some careers are more injury prone than others, and it's not just sports. There are other activities that can lead to that. I mean, a pilot. There's a lot of risks for a pilot,
for sure.
So anyway, it's fascinating. Now, on a lighter note, let's talk about how boxing is coming back with the Cleveland boys, the the Paul brothers. What's up? What do you think of them?
From a purist standpoint, I don't. You talk to any purist, like hardcore boxing fan, or even many fighters, they're like, they're a lot of them. They're kind of clowns.
Yeah.
But I can respect what they're doing, and I do see the long-term benefit for what they're doing.
Hmm.
They're bringing a whole different audience into the sport, like
Yeah.
the TikTok generation, what, Z audience or
Yeah. Gen
whatever.
Z. Yeah. Gen Z.
They're
I'm
bringing
on
them to the
TikTok.
forefront.
I clump myself with Gen Zs.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's smart. It's smart. It's good for business. They kind of latched on a little bit to the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather audience. They're bringing in their own audience. I understand that what they're doing and how they're doing it. Like even for the Tyron Woodley fight that Jake Paul was in, I already knew Tyron was going to lose, and I felt like he was going to get knocked out.
Why did you think that?
Because, and I mean no disrespect to the MMA fighters, but a lot of the MMA fighters, they don't specifically train for boxing. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, it's a completely different sport.
Yeah.
There's certain nuances that you learn with your experience training specifically for boxing. Those nuances that Jake Paul was able to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And they can say what they want about him. He's training with elite trainers. I know them.
Yeah.
He's training with elite fighters and getting really high quality sparring.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Tyron is a professional fighter, he didn't have enough time to make up the gap in the experience. And also,
he was a substitute on the second fight, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And he's 39 years old. He's been through a lot of wear and tear. He's kind of washed up. Like, no disrespect to him, but it is what it is. And Showtime as a company, they're not going to waste their golden ticket. They're going to put him in a fight where they feel like he's going to win because they want to keep the money train rolling. So they're going to end up putting him against, I believe, Conor McGregor at some point.
So it's a money fight, right? It's it's a business, like we said. But I just hope it doesn't. I just hope that, I mean, every fight there's like a million people who are not educated in boxing will say, "Oh, that shit was fixed. Oh, this that," right?
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, the purists can see through all that. They see when it's real and when it isn't. But I gotta ask you though, like that Mayweather Logan Paul fight, I looked at it as an exhibition, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, for sure.
It was like, do you really believe in your heart of hearts that Mayweather would go 8 rounds with Logan?
No, he carried him. Just I think he caught him with a pretty good right hand counter in one of the early rounds and knocked dude off his feet.
Yeah.
So he carried him just like he carried Conor McGregor. People want to sit here and argue with me that Conor could compete with a high level Hall of Fame boxer for 10. No, Floyd carried him. Yeah. He had an agreement with Dana White going into it that he's not going to seriously damage Conor because they still need to use him for the UFC. It was like a joint agreement. So, yeah.
That's funny, man. But so then what do you think is that good for boxing or bad ultimately when the fights are being carried as opposed to being honest?
It's good for the business of boxing, for the networks and for the major companies, but for the integrity of boxing, it's bad. To me, it's horrible. We shouldn't be seeing these guys in the ring. But I will say though, for Jake Paul, the one thing I do like, he's brought on a lot of unknown fighters or lesser known fighters and put them on his undercard so that they're getting a lot of shine. Like Amanda Serrano, for example, she's like a 3 or 4 division world champion and she's unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm glad she's getting the opportunity to fight in front of a wide audience. So,
I mean, what do you think? Like, what happens in the locker room with all these fighters, right? When they see like Williams and Gore walk in for a fight that's more about NBA versus NFL as opposed to an actual boxing bout.
It's kind of like looking at a car wreck. Like, like
well, I mean, Frank Gore looks like a car wreck, honestly.
He does, and for all these fighters, athletes, YouTubers, I give them respect for getting in the ring because it takes a lot of courage. But I don't think any of the boxers, the boxing community, take these fights serious.
Yeah.
I heard Logan Paul is going to fight Mike Tyson at some point.
Okay.
Do not be surprised if Mike Tyson takes a dive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but see, like I think the bottom line is we'll still watch that, right? And I
Yeah, for
feel like
sure.
that's the business side. Is even though we suspect that it's not going to be pure, we're still going to watch it for entertainment purposes. So that's where the pro wrestling side comes in, right? It's like, oh, it's just entertainment. I want to see
Right.
it for the entertainment factor, and I guess that is good. But
If fans want to stop that, do what they did for the last Jake Paul fight. I think they'd only had 65,000 buys.
yeah,
So there were other variables that attributed to the failure of that event. But
what was
as
the
a fan,
expected rate? What was the expected rate on that fight, on the buy rate?
I'm not sure, but I'm assuming Showtime probably expected at least 100,000.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well,
So,
Jake, by the way, I was in Ireland not too long ago. I flew there. My brother-in-law lives there, and he's lived there his whole life. And he knows Connor. And he said,
okay.
yeah, but he knew him like through like association, right? Like he knows him through other avenues. And he was telling me how Ireland, like when we went there, he had told me before, but this was my first trip to Ireland. He was like, dude, no one in Dublin likes him. I was like, wait, why? He's like, come, I'll show you. And he took me by his gym. He's like, that was the gym he started at. He started as a boxer, right? McGregor did. And he's like, do you see any pictures of him anywhere? I was like, damn, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So then he told me like, we talked about that, and he told me like, because he's, he wasn't humble, and he kind of like stepped on the people who were helped train him and get him to where he was at. And once he got the money, he kind of just turned his back on them. And he's like, so because of that, and the Irish are very passionate, so they love loyalty and stuff. So he said for those reasons, the elder Irish people kind of got turned off by him big time. The younger kids, like they like him just because he carries the same flag. But
Right.
so anyway, and then later on, like a couple of days later, he's like, by the way, that Jake Paul guy is my hero. I was like, dude, I was like, listen to me. What you told me about McGregor is exactly how the Americans feel about Jake and Logan. Jake more so because he's more of a talker. But it was just funny. Like we had the same, like, because I like McGregor, but he didn't. He was like, he's trash here. But like anyway, and he was going for Khabib in that big fight they had. He was like, but Khabib, see, like, I feel like Khabib was like, he got the fights, like the big time fights, and he wasn't greedy. Like, he's like, I'm good. And he's gone back to coaching, right? He's not, I mean, his brother is in now, or is it his brother or his cousin? I'm not sure.
I think it's his. I'm not sure who it is.
It's his younger brother now that is fighting, and he's whooping ass now. But anyway, don't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to mention all that. Well, cool, man. We got to get back and hoop again. Where are you at now these days? I'm in Sacramento, but where are you at?
Oh, me too.
Oh, really? This is the 5th episode I've had where I ask my guests where they're at, and they're like freaking down the road from me. It's insane. And that's on me. I need to do a better job of keeping connected. But I'm going to reach out to you.
It's on me too. It's mutual.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's hoop it up. I mean, this COVID stuff is crazy, but I don't even hoop anymore because of that. I mean, I haven't been in a gym, and I got people who still go in, and they're like, just keep a mask on. I'm like, it's just, that's a lot of, yeah. I was like, I'm vaccinated, I'm good, but it's like, it's just a lot of headache to just try to, like, I love hooping, but I'll just do it outside. I'll just go shoot for 2 hours, right? And I'll just work on my drills. So, but we can meet out there once the weather is good. Luckily, we live in a good state where there's no real winters. But
I'm definitely down. I haven't hooped in like 7 years or so.
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure that shows when we play, because I owe you one.
Yeah, you got to get me. It's all good though.
For sure, man. Hey, Kirk, you want to plug away anything? You got any social media or any of your articles that we can reach out?
Instagram, follow me, Kirk, still KIRK _ Twitter, I believe I'm KJackson9000. You can follow me on Boxing Insider. That's the main website I write for. Muckrack, MUCKRACK for all my articles. And then if you can, keep an eye out for the Scope Network. That's going to be my own platform that I release.
Hell yeah, bro. You guys heard that. So give this man some love. Go follow him on all his platforms, read his articles, share his articles. And you know where to find me, Pej the Maniac, on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, all of those. And then Fumble Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and the bell so you don't miss any episodes coming up. This has been episode 46. My man Kirk, I'm Pej. We'll catch you on the next one.